Welcome back to another special edition of Have a Tintico with me. I am beyond excited to have my friend, my co-conspirator, Tatiana Torres, as our guest today. Tatiana is a remarkable leader and honestly has made significant contributions to many different communities and fields. She is recently appointed as associate partner at Dentons Global Advisors. Congratulations.
Thank you, Maria.
That's no small thing. She formerly served in Mayor Muriel Browser's administration. She served as the Director of External Affairs and Engagement of the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development. And Tatiana, on top of that, serves on a number of local and national boards and now international boards.
Yes.
She's a term member of the Council on Foreign Relations. She's a board member of Concordia, board member of the Washington National Philanthropies, member of the 2020 Class of Leadership Greater Washington Hispanics 100 Most Influential Latinos, and I love this one, named the Washington Business Journal 40 Under 40. That's my friend. And I can proudly say that she also recently accepted her role as a board member of Casa Innovation here in Colombia and Latin America. So for me, Tatiana, it is an honor to have you here. I'm excited to cover a number of topics, including your experience as a Colombian immigrant in the United States, your journey as a woman in leadership, your role in fostering those public-private partnerships, and your involvement in social impact initiatives. So we're also going to discuss Tatiana's involvement in the Festival of the Diaspora and Casa Innovation and how all of these contribute to sort of a positive change in fostering collaboration within the diasporic community. So grab your favorite cup of Tintico. In our case today, it's from the Foundation Taller Nedisco.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. We hope you follow them and get ready for an enlightening conversation with my friend Tatiana Torres. So have a Tintico with us.
Gracias.
De nada. Welcome. So, Tatiana,
A ver, démelo por acá.
vamos a hablar a lo Spanglish, ¿no? I want to, pero bueno, una mujer, an immigrant, a Colombian immigrant, a recently appointed associate partner at Dentons Global Advisors. You have quite a perspective on overcoming barriers and challenges and breaking barriers.
Yeah.
Can you share some of the challenges you faced when starting your career in a new country? How did you navigate those challenges? And then maybe what lessons did you learn along the way?
Sure. Many gracias. Thank you very much, and to all of you.
Yeah.
Thank you for allowing us to come into your home today.
Yeah.
Migrant, Colombian American, very proud of that.
Yeah.
I love this beautiful country. It's one of my, it's an honor to be able to say Colombian American. Traveling now in my older years, I guess, at 40-something years old, I'll say 40-something. I look back at being in the country and remember and see the people that are here. And then I look back at my experience in the United States and arriving to the U.S. when I was 5, not knowing the English language, fleeing the native country that at that time was in such turmoil and difficult times, leaving everything that my parents identified in their late 20s as being Colombian, as being young people, because they were young. I can't even begin to think what I would do at that age. And making a decision for all of us that they were going to come and leave everything behind just for our safety.
You know, I can relate.
Oh, yes. and safety meant they would no longer keep their degrees or their positions in Colombia, which were pretty well accommodated. But all that went into a closet, and that was it. And having to come and scrub floors and clean plates and wash toilets in America when they had people doing that for them here.
Yeah.
And completely changing physically as young folks, but also their vision changed. And one of the things, so we didn't, as you know, we didn't get to go to the areas of the United States and New Jersey that were very much Latinos.
Oh, yeah.
They were all white. And we were the only brown people there at that time in those years. Now it's different. And my father had cut my hair. I think I told you this, extremely short. So I looked like a boy. And he was told that we had to do that because there was lice coming into the United States and we probably would get rejected if we didn't come in. So not only am I the only brown girl in the kindergarten class that spoke no English, but I also looked like a boy. In the classroom, there was predominantly white. So the identity of being Colombian American in that experience was very much kind of challenged and threatened and Americanized very quickly. by force. And my father said to us, I need you guys to go in, learn the culture,
Learn English real fast.
quickly,
No accent.
so you can translate for us, no accent. And then you got to understand your Colombian side too, because you're never going to leave that behind. And having that at 5 years old is a little bit too much pressure for an older child. But I think it's what forged me to be where I am. So challenges at that age, I think it was just accommodating as a young kid, not knowing why we had just left everything behind. Things looked different. We went from a 4-bedroom house to like a 1-bedroom apartment that we shared with another family. Seeing my parents not in their uniform and in their beautiful clothes, coming from work at 5 o'clock and having the nanny, help. And then just them working 12, 19, 16-hour days. It was a complete different shock for me as a kid. But I understood the reasons why we were here, because my father was as the eldest of 4, was very specific as to why. At that point, it was only my brother and I, but later it would be 4, why we had come here.
Claro. We had it clear.
Very clear. Y siempre llevé, I always had my parents sacrifice here, right? And here, and here.
And in your shoulder.
Oh, and definitely here. Because there was no option for failure at that point, because I realized as the years went by that they were giving everything up, which is a lot of pressure to put on a child and on a teenager.
Right.
And we never talk about that. And the impacts that has later on in life as you progress in your career, as you get into middle school and high school and college, you begin to realize what those pressures did to me. But I'm grateful for them, because I don't think I'd be sitting here if it weren't for that, como decimos aquí en este país, berraquera, no?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just this grit.
Yeah.
I think it's the right translation.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we arrived in New Jersey, educated in schools, and then the case that we had before the U.S. government to accept us in this country was denied. So we were undocumented for most of my adult life.
Yeah.
So probably about 15 years plus.
Yeah.
And that changes you completely, because you hide that.
Yeah.
You try to hide that as much as you can, especially in the environments and the circles that we were in.
Right. Yeah. So try to be proud, but don't be too proud.
Don't be too proud.
So I think, the audience doesn't know this, but we were introduced by our good friend Cordel.
Yes.
And when he introduced us, I remember he said to me, "You have to meet Tatiana because she's your sister."
Yes.
He's like, "You don't realize that you guys have had the same life." And I think as we get to know each other, we realize more and more sort of how similar our situations were, living in different parts of the country. Not so far. I was in Delaware.
Yeah, we were not so far.
Same type of scenario, coming to a city in a state that is predominantly white. And then both of us navigating what it's like to be a young adult, undocumented in the United States before there were dreamers, right? Before there were.
I wish to a certain extent that there had been some sort of a dreamer program, because that would have been so encouraging.
That's right.
But it's like having one foot in and one foot out.
That's right.
You're American because you can associate, understand the American culture. You get it. But then you're also Colombian, because when you come home,
you gotta be fully Colombian.
Completely.
And don't you dare try and be too American.
Oh, no.
They'll slap that right out.
Exactly. As you saw, we both did it at the same time.
Yeah, a little too entitled.
No entitlement, no talking back, no disrespect. Sí, señor, sí, señora. Always.
That's right.
And then it's funny, I hated speaking Spanish when I was a kid, because I didn't want to stick out.
Right.
And the summertime, everybody had the reading list. We had the reading list that the school would send.
Yeah.
Well, my dad had his own set of reading materials that we had to read during the summer.
That's right.
So that he's like, these are the Colombian Latino authors that you need to read about.
Yeah.
And here's your books that you have to read for school. But you must understand where you come from and what it is that you represent for so many people.
That's huge. But you know what? Your point around sort of the weight, and I often talk about this with some of my clients and the foundations we work with, I know you do as well, is we try to paint this sort of picture of how, we quickly became parentified, but not just parentified, but almost like adultified.
Totally.
Very soon.
Very
because
quickly.
of having to carry that sort of very weight.
Yeah, there was no, I don't think I had much of a childhood, to be honest. And I've come to terms with that, which is fine. Definitely no teenage years for me, because it was like school, work, home, homework, siblings' homework, go to bed. And I repeated that. So it wasn't in college, because I wasn't documented. There was no dorm experience, party experience.
That's right.
I wasn't documented. So I had to work 7 jobs to try to pay for semesters of college.
And pay 2 or 3 times the tuition.
Absolutely.
They charge international students.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, this could be a session in itself. And maybe we do need one, because I think there needs to be a discussion about shedding light on the immigrant experience. But there are so many different immigrant experiences that I think one of them is specifically if you navigated the United States system as an undocumented immigrant. And I think one of the sort of conference topics I often talk about is from undocumented immigrant to Ivy League graduate, and what it is to cover both those sides. Because then as we get to sort of that other end of the spectrum, you know, we carry so much of that guilt.
That's right.
So thinking about that, you've made it to that other side. I am so proud of us and you for that.
Proud of us.
And throughout your career, right, you know that mentorship and guidance have played such a crucial role, both informal and formal. Have there been any sort of mentors or role models who inspired or influenced your path, and how did they shape specifically your approach to leadership and professional growth?
You know what? The first, I would have to say that clearly my parents are everything to me. But I would have never been in the political circle if this woman, her name is Nilda Pimentel, had never, Puerto Rican powerhouse.
Yep.
You know, Lower East Side, New York, has two amazing daughters that are also advocates for women in New York City. And Nilda gave me a chance to sit in campaigns. So I won't get into which ones they were. Just sit in the campaign office and watch her be the Latino advisor to the governor, to the mayor, to the senator. Just during my college experience, in the middle of working 5 jobs, I would, you know, take time out to volunteer with her as much as I could. And I never knew what politics was until meeting Nilda, because she said people don't eat politics. They eat off the policies that are created by these politicians, right? So you must understand that we're going to elect people. They got to be people that are going to change the policies that are going to shape the people that we most care about. So we have to be in rooms where there are no voices or people that look like us, or people that care about our issues, or allies, right? So I think that Nilda was a significant key that was used to open up the door to this political world that I fell in love with all its craziness and with all its hypocrisy and backstabbing and all the things that come with that. You meet some really amazing public servants that actually do care. And Nilda was one of those people. And she also tied me into this communications, media buying, complex, just world of communications, and how to work around that in both the public and the private sector.
How to navigate that.
And how to navigate it. So it was, I think, people like her that didn't have to give an undocumented girl, as a Puerto Rican, she's a U.S. citizen, a chance.
Right.
She said, let me invest in you. And I think, Mari, the big difference between a mentor and a sponsor is what makes, it's made the biggest difference in my life. Because Nilda could have been like, oh, I'll have coffee with you, or oh, you know, in Washington, D.C., we do a lot of coffee.
Give you some advice.
Yeah, let me give you some guidance. She put her money, literally her financial investment, into me. And said, this is what I want to teach you how to do.
Yep. That's deep. You know, one of my my clients is Casey Family Programs, and their CEO, Dr. William Bell. When he did a speech at Hispanics in Philanthropy the other day, and when he said it, he said this one quote that sort of changed the way I see things. He said, if you're not at the table, chances are you're on the menu.
For sure.
When he said that, for me, it became like a livelihood and survival thing of like, I gotta be at the table, because either I'm on the menu, or worse, my people
for sure
are on the menu.
So, and it's, I know people are like, it's a seat at the table, it's a voice at the table, it's a decision-making authority at the table.
That's right.
It's the ability to raise your hand and people to actually turn and look at you and hear you. Because many of us, unfortunately, have been at the table, but that's it.
That's right.
And I think the time has come where we're not just at the table. We're talking at the table, making decisions at the table, bringing contribution to the table, financial decisions at the table, and influencing all these things into one. To be able to be allies in our communities and be able to raise other people up. So that's mentorship and sponsorship. People that actually care to sponsor, literally sponsor you. Like we sponsor, you know, events. Like they literally invest themselves into you. And Nilda was one of those people.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I hope that we're able to sort of at least encourage others who are sort of after us to unapologetically ask for that type of mentorship and coaching. Because I think that's the biggest challenge is it has become a bit of a taboo that, like, or maybe it's become too formalized. It's like, I want to have a coach and mentor. I have to go through this entire program of mentorship and coaching.
Right.
But in reality, it's so organic.
Right. And how can most people in our community, most women in our communities can't afford to pay $6,000 to get advice.
Exactamente.
That's like school. That's
Right.
family responsibilities. If
Right.
they're mothers, that's their children. If they're aunties, whatever it might be, and men too. But I just think that we can't go through those roles like that. And there's got to be people that are going to be able to do this in a way that is just like out of your heart and passion
and organic
for legacy building and community building.
That's right.
No, it can't get done.
Girl, are you sure this should be coffee or wine?
I think we need to do part 2
How about
of this
with
wine.
wine? With wine. A friend or two.
Yes,
Thinking about
yes,
that.
we are.
And Tintico technically is also wine.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
Speaking of you being an advocate, I have to discuss your role in the Black Lives Matter movement, because I understand that your led efforts related to businesses and stakeholders on behalf of the movement. And I understand that your work in DC was later replicated across the country with other cities that followed suit. Can you tell us more about your involvement and the impact it had on sort of fostering social justice and equality?
Yeah, sure. So I think it was like 4:00 in the afternoon on June 1st of 2020. And I've had the honor of working for Mayor Muriel Bowser as her Director of External Affairs and working in the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Economic Planning and Development. And that was the same day that the president at that time had used the Bible in front of one of the most iconic churches in Washington, D.C., upside down. And George Floyd had just been murdered. And there was so much angst over the pandemic, over his death, his unjust death, his brutal death, division. People were crying, people were heartbroken. I don't have to say, we all have seen this, right? And Mayor Bowser decided that we had to put a stake in the ground that signified like people's lives matter, but more importantly, Black lives matter. And yeah, about 16 hours later, through the night, a team of beautiful artistic directors and a lot of agencies in district government, we painted 16th Street in Washington, D.C. in front of the White House. It said Black Lives Matter. And I still have the black shoes that I wore that night that has the yellow paint sprinkled on it. We did not think, and I know the mayor did not think, that 39 plus countries would then replicate that around the world. And that's not counting cities, that's just countries. Wow. It was probably one of the craziest experiences of my life.
Wow.
And joining my colleagues and the deputy mayor and the chief of staff for the mayor at that time, just really like looking at what has just happened. The most important part for me personally that I take away with what happened with Black Lives Matter Plaza was that a couple of weeks later, a gentleman by the name of John Lewis, not iconic or anything,
normal,
wanted to see for himself what had just been done.
Right.
And he called our office, and the mayor was like, well, you're the external affairs director, so let's work with the federal affairs group, and you're able to get him up there. Mr. Lewis was very ill at that time, even though a lot of people didn't know. So to get him, we got him on the highest building in that corridor for him to be able to speak and see Black Lives Matter. And, it was a labor of love, 3 a.m. to try to get him on there. We had to do some landscaping, in the middle of the night, get rid of like trees, and because he had to climb. He was very ill. He was very fragile. And that at 7:02 that morning, he came up. He saw Black Lives Matter Plaza, and the only thing I was fangirling and crying, and this was like this was John Lewis right in front of me. This is like a patriarch of the movement, a respected, just trailblazer. After he turned around and he saw it, he cried. I said, Mr. Lewis, on behalf of the Latino community, thank you for advocating for us.
I just got goosebumps.
Right? And he said, my sister, it's been my honor and my pleasure. It's been my honor and my pleasure. Continue to do the same.
Done.
A couple of days later, he passed.
Oh,
that was the last public event that he did. And I was able, and then it was funny because around the country, around the world, I started getting messages from people, and they're like, you're in the shot.
Yeah.
I I was working. I was in work. Oh, you know how we get in work mode. So like, I was a mess. I was tired. Okay. But I was in the shot when he was talking to the mayor. So a lot of people had seen me in the shots with him. And it's on CNN, on MSNBC. I do. So I took the movie and I said, oh my God, not only did I get to see this man, but it's like memorialized.
It is.
More importantly, as a Latina,
Yeah.
that mattered to me for two reasons. Number one, there's got to be, first of all, alliances in the Black and brown community that we cannot afford to be divided, especially in the United States, but also here and anywhere, wherever it is, the Afro-Colombia, whatever it's Afro-Latin American, we must be divided in our efforts. And this is one of the reasons why. That's why I am, happy to be and honored to be part of the Diaspora Festival, but Casa Innovation and the work that's being done to really bring and highlight women entrepreneurs and LGBT entrepreneurs and people that are fighting and working so hard and natives in this country and other parts. So it's part of my passion. But point two, I remember the business community around what happened and the reaction they had. There was two of the most top major hotels in Washington, D.C. that were on 16th Street that were closed. Motion Picture Association. And there was very important businesses and law firms, and having to deal with telling or informing, I would say, the private sector on what the public sector was doing and why it was important for the community.
And to get in line.
Managing all those expectations and saying, hey, by the way, this is monumental. Look at what the world is doing because of this. Was not an easy thing.
Of course.
But those private-public partnerships, those alliances that we can form between public and private, and like all of them are important to do these kind of things. If not, we're not going to get anywhere to represent.
But think about the experience that you also got to be a sort of then a global change maker with that expertise that you learned, how to bring people from different sides of the spectrum together for a positive social link.
I still have a piece of gray hair back here that I try to cover up.
It's got a name.
Don't you cover it.
Eso es de guerra.
No. Me quedan las cicatrices. I do have but it was worth it. It's a badge that I wear fully front, and I'm honored by it. But there's much more to do than just paint a street.
That's right.
Right? I can tell you, we can paint streets everywhere. And I don't mean no disrespect to Mayor Ballard and her administration or the effort. I think it was fantastic. Honored to be part of that. But there's got to be, again, where is the investment and the funding being done to actually match that?
Right.
And the advocacy and the alliances that need to be formed. And this is why I think Casa Innovación and the Diaspora Festival and the group of leaders that we brought together, we're really fighting for this because it's necessary and we cannot waste time. If not, more people will literally die.
That's right.
If we don't take care of it.
That's right. It's like you read my questions or something. Way to jump into my next one.
I'm guessing.
No, you're guessing. No, but it's true. So you were saying you've been very actively involved in the Festival of the Diaspora. You're now on the board of Casa Innovation. Tell me a little bit more about your role in these initiatives and maybe how they align with what you just said, your passion for social impact and community development. How do you see these organizations and our partners as well contributing to positive change and actually fostering collaboration in the diasporic community, which we know includes all of these subgroups?
There is no better way for me to invest my time than in issues like these. It is critical that we help women especially that are smart and vibrant and resilient do this type of work. And the only way we do that is by actually, again, funding those efforts. I remember when Cordell had the vision of this so many years ago, we went here for Aspen, Colombia, and he barely talked about this in Cartagena. Wouldn't it be great if we could have an event where we could support local people?
Nice.
And I said, yeah, Cordell, it would be wonderful. And I was, I think, at this point, 5 years ago. But I'm privileged and honored that it's actually taking place now. Because I think this is the right time. Not that there's always been movements, right? Every generation has a movement. Every generation has brought contribution. But as a Colombo-Americana, my time is now, I've been in the United States for 37 years. And it's great. And I can easily sit there in the United States and look down at Latin America and say, So awesome. I love Colombia. Yeah, Colombia. And, whatever. I can sing Carlos Vives song for days. But I have to contribute back to where I came from. I must give back to the people. I must give back to the country, to the continent that saw me. And I think, and I'll say this, maybe it might be a little bit too provocative, but I think as Americans, we look a lot to Europe and to Asia for a lot of strength. We look at them for a lot of, investment, the whole thing. We have a neighbor sitting right right there that we can, with so many natural resources, with such brilliant people, intelligent people, with such sustainability efforts underway, and such a vibrant community of so many shapes, sizes, and colors and flavors, and we're not utilizing that partnership. So I think my time is to come back and invest time here in my country, in the country that I was born in. As much as an American as I am considered, and as much as I get asked all the time whether, I am Colombian because I don't have an accent. But it doesn't matter. I have to come back. And I think it's full circle moment for me. And at Dentons Global Advisors, one of the opportunities that I have there is to be able to bring all my worlds and all the philanthropic and public and private work that I've done and bring it together to actually serve people and work with corporations that can serve people and that can help take that through.
I love that.
And I see Casa Innovation as an opportunity, as the gateway for that.
That's right.
For so many people to have the opportunity that Nilda gave me.
That's right.
Right? So to be the Nilda for so many. To be the Nilda. To be, to be the Cordels of the world. To be people that open doors for other people and never sit there and go, well, what am I going to get out of it?
Exactly.
Just do it.
Exactly.
And this is why I'm here.
I think it's so interesting that like our worlds have kind of collided at the right time. So we've sort of coincided in a lot of spaces over the years, but we came together right as, I moved back to Colombia, this in the pandemic. I came to visit. I too have spent the last 26 years in the United States and was very much sort of set there, right? I think it became something we could navigate.
Get comfortable.
We got our tribe, we got our people, and coming back here as an adult and learning how to navigate, but also learning how to handle the responsibility of being a Colombian American back in Colombia.
Totally.
And bring that weight and that pressure and that responsibility of, okay, the world is starting. I think the pandemic did this for us, right? It made the world so much more connected.
Yeah.
It made it so much less about continents because we all connected so much that it also put this added responsibility on us to be like, I am from Colombia and the United States. I'm a Colombian American. Let me own up to that Colombian part.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I love about Casa Innovation and the Diaspora Festival is that you and I are part of, to a certain extent, of a migrant movement.
Exactly.
And being in the United States, and I don't want to touch on the immigration system there, but seeing it here and how we've had our brothers and sisters from Venezuela come through and here in the country. And whatever your political rhetoric or thoughts are on that, they're human beings. They're looking like our parents were looking for opportunity,
and they look like us, and they
look like us, and they exactly, and they've probably had just as educated as my parents, and they've left everything behind to be able to come. So that's part of Casa Innovation that I love, because I think about the migrants like Camilas and Tatianas that we're impacting right now from this opportunity, this stage.
That's right.
And it's not about giving people this. It's about reaching up, pulling them, and throwing them on your back.
That's right.
And that's what I hope to do for the next 40, 50 years of my life, God willing. And be able to do that for others that and I know you feel the same, that just never had that opportunity.
Oh yeah, we'll be having Tinticos 40, 50 years from now.
I hope so, girl.
About when we started.
I hope so, girl. I hope so. We're in our own studio now.
Our own studio, yes. We'll have the same guy.
Yes, we will.
Same production.
Exactly. Executive producers, of course.
Okay, so going back to that, right? So we have a lot of dreams.
Yeah.
But we're also immigrant women who have a lot of responsibilities. We are responsible for our families. We're responsible for our employees. We're responsible for our community. So many individuals sort of find themselves torn between pursuing income-generating opportunities and sort of going after their passion and purpose, right? Very much like us. In your experience, how can one strike a balance between financial stability and finding fulfillment in their work? What advice do you have for individuals who aspire really to align their income generation goals to their purpose or values. And I know that's no easy task, but
It's not. I can only speak to what I've lived myself, but I think that being fiscally responsible is necessary for women.
Yeah.
And I think saving is important, and empowering yourself to know that you belong again back to the table, and that they can pay you. I remember one role that I had at one company. They wanted me for $38,000 less than what I knew I was worth.
Yep.
Because of the name, because of the title. But I know my responsibilities.
Yeah.
I know. I take care of my mom and my grandmother. You know this. I call them the Golden Girls, as Golden Chicas.
That's right. Another Tintico.
Exactly. That's another Tintico. It's family responsibilities and taking care of your own. Yeah. So if it were me by myself, I might have been like, whatever. I can do maybe.
Yeah.
I would have fought a little bit more.
Sure.
But when you have family responsibility on top of you, and people that are depending on you 100% financially, that's a whole different thing. So being able to no job is ever going to be perfect.
Yep.
We create that when we want to.
Yeah.
And this is what we're trying to do now.
Yep.
But at first, beggars can't be choosers. You get a job that's going to teach you and you're going to learn.
Yeah.
And there's some jobs that I was like, I should have never taken that job.
Yeah.
But they taught me something, right? So I think that be passionate about what you want to do, but also make yourself a diverse individual professionally. Be able to say, I know this, and I know that.
Right.
And not saying like you're, as the jack of all trades, something of none. I can't remember the phrase, but make sure you find a niche where where you can bring your personal self, your experience to the job that pays you for what you do. But also don't give up your intelligence, your knowledge, yourself for pennies.
Yeah.
We can't do that. Men never think about that.
Sorry, men. But they don't.
But they don't. And we don't do that very often. As women, we obviously are always like this, trying to fight against each other, to push each other out of the way, as if the pie were not big enough for all of us.
Right.
And we talk about this.
Girl, yes.
It's not about cutting each other. It's about saying, okay, you're doing this.
Yeah.
How can it be helpful?
Right.
How can I get you in the room that you need to be in?
Right.
Let me take you with me. And you know that the girlfriends that we all have together as we evolve, we always thinking about each other.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a client here. I can't take that person, but it would be good for you. Oh, and it's always working on that. So for me, financial wealth, or closing that wealth gap, I think is about, number one, saving for yourself and making sure that, do you really need to be frivolous about some of the things that you need to spend on, or investing in property more important? Right.
And not that immigrant new money mentality.
So we all want to, we all want to do all the things and have all the beautiful purses and brand name. I don't care for it. I'd rather have a property somewhere that I can come back to, that I can invest in, that I can buy a second property and a third property, and then maybe think about that then.
Sure.
But we have to take that poverty mentality that we have. Also, I'm not saying dress in rags and never.
Listen,
por favor.
hay que verse bien.
Exactamente. But there's things that are not absolutely necessary that could be better invested. And I think it can't just be the immediate. It has to be like, where am I 10 years now down the line? What can I buy with this that could be more effective for me and my family and my legacy?
Yeah, I had two thoughts. One is that I think one interesting thing I think about the table is, when we get access to the table, we often fight about, like, I want to be at the table. I want to be able to have an equal voice at the table. I want to be able to have space to put more chairs at the table, because oftentimes when we show up with our girlfriends and our people. And so if we continue to try and have space at the table to bring our friends to the table and keep their seats at that table, I think is quite huge. Yeah. And so for me, I love this idea of being able to ensure that when we come to the table, we bring our friends. I think the second is around sort of, I think there's this argument or this movement, especially after the pandemic, right, that, we should all want to be at this purpose-only route right away. And I think many of us, I understand that the immigrant rhetoric sometimes, like, tiene que doler, right? Like, it has to hurt. You have to pay for it.
I have to pay the price.
You have to pay the price. And I understand that can be quite detrimental to our community. But at the same time, I think in order to get to a place where we have the luxury and the privilege of creating movements and opportunities for others, we have to have put in the time, right? And sort of learned and gone through those jobs that was like, I took a pay cut, but I learned so much. So
it's not like our careers are not like swiping iPhones, right? And I unfortunately think that maybe some of the younger folks, some definitely not, some yes, think that like it's okay not to work hard.
Yep.
And it should be easier.
Yep.
And I'm not trying to sound like an old head and say like you must pay.
Right.
But there's certain things that you learn when you're resilient, when you listen, when you respect those that have come before you, that have paved the way of that. I always say there's no need to reinvent the wheel at times. Maybe you smoothen it out in some areas, but there's no way to take the wheel apart and make it different just because I have to. No, you don't have to. Yeah. It's okay to listen and learn. And I think sometimes those sacrifices, I don't want my youngest siblings or a younger person to have to go through exactly what I went through. Never. No. But do I think that there's some work requirements and things that are necessary that we must do, in attention to detail, being on values, working hard, those values? Yeah, those still matter. They still matter.
So we had this conversation this weekend about sort of entrepreneurs in our network, right? Yeah. And the challenge of not having a long-term vision, right? Because I think sometimes we're so fixated on the monetary benefits of short-term relationships, that we're not thinking about the long game and the benefits long-term of broadening our network, of giving back. So there is actually something to be said about the sort of lucrative success of being community-oriented and community-minded.
Absolutely.
I think we need to start pitching it that way.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, listen, we can talk forever. We can switch from coffee to vino. We'll probably do that off the camera.
We sure.
But I just want to thank you for sharing your valuable insights. You came all the way to Colombia to meet with the festival, to meet with Casa Innovation, but you also made time to make sure that we co-created things that we could share with our networks. And for me, that's very important, both as a friend and as a colleague. So thank you for having a Tintico with me. To our audience, we understand this might be very interesting to you. If you have questions, please leave them in our comments.
Yes.
I will reach out to Tatiana to get some thoughts and responses on that. But I hope that we all stay tuned for more inspiring Tinticos, more inspiring conversations where we can talk about social impact, leadership, and really meaningful change with our people at the table.
Yes. And thank you. Yeah. Thank you for opening doors for a lot of people.
No, you're home now. So welcome. Have a Tintico with us. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.